The papas. All right, what is going on, guys? It is Adam, aka Marf, and this is Marfoogle TV. Today, we're going to go over North Korea tests new hypersonic missile with the one U.S. target in mind. Of course, we've talked about the different weapons that they have swapped over with Russia, and of course, the rhetoric that they've been putting out. But now they apparently have a brand new toy. On Tuesday, North Korean leader Kim Jong-un guided his military on a ground jet test of a multi-stage solid fuel engine for its new type intermediate range hypersonic missile at the North's rocket launch facility. The Sohae satellite launching ground, the official Korean Central News Agency reported. The more powerful agile missile is designed to strike faraway U.S. targets in the region, specifically the U.S. Pacific territory of Guam. It's odd, too, because they actually moved different systems like the Iron Dome system to Guam just not too far away, about 2 years ago or a year and a half ago. The more powerful agile missile is designed to strike faraway U.S. targets in the region, specifically the territory of Guam. Kim cited the strategic value of the new missile, which he claimed was capable of targeting the U.S. mainland, and said that enemies know better about it. He also applauded the great success in the important test. So if it is true that this test actually went the way that they say it is, it's not a good thing for us because obviously many have theorized, and it's a theory that has not gone to sleep, that North Korea would be the trigger for the weapon that, say, China or Russia or all of them end up holding. If North Korea launches an attack on the U.S., we would respond to North Korea. Say if Kim Jong-un and his family, I guess, or his daughter and whatever else, if they are okay with losing their country, which looks like they don't care too much about their people, and they have some sort of seat at a table in China or some ghost town devoted to them that they get to rule after it all goes down, then maybe he would just throw away North Korea. Because we would wipe North Korea off the map if they ended up launching anything towards us. They know that, but are they crazy enough to do it anyways? This is the same guy that put his uncle, I believe, in front of an anti-air cannon. So who knows? Again, we're going to talk about this and much, much more tonight. We're going to talk about Neuralink. We're going to show you a video, a gentleman powering the computer with his mind, playing chess, playing Civilization 8. Apparently, he played Civilization 8 for 8 hours with no stress, all with his brain. We're going to talk about that right now, so stick around. Don't miss a minute. Nothing in this show should be considered legal, medical, or financial advice. The views of the callers can differ considerably and do not necessarily reflect my opinion, Dex's opinion, or anyone else who works with the show. You should always do your own research and consult with professionals. The internet is full of fake news, so please take everything with a grain of salt. If you have not already, it helps us out if you end up going through any of our affiliates, and it helps you out if you end up protecting yourself against cybercrime. NordVPN is one of the best and one of the easiest to use. If you do not have a virtual private network, it protects your IP address, which is your online identity, which actually connects to your real address and everything else. It also connects to you. If you know anything about how they are data logging and basically getting your profiles down, you can prevent that by having a VPN. Nord is, again, one of the easiest. Download it. It's like an on switch and off switch. All you have to do. Go to marfooglenews.com/VPN. Not only will you get a giant discount on this, but you will also be helping us. I appreciate your support, and I appreciate everyone that goes through any of our affiliates. Can't say thank you enough. Mamas and the papas, drop them before they depop us. Mamas and the papas. All right, so obviously North Korea having a new hypersonic missile that can reach Guam or even possibly Alaska, not very good news for us, to say the least. But it's all rhetoric until somebody actually pulls the trigger on something like this. It is a very freaky thing to think about. Kim Jong-un is obviously painted out to be a complete loon. But of course, what else could you paint him as? If any of the stories about him are true, then really is he stable enough to even run the country he's running, let alone long-range nuclear missiles that can actually hit us? And these are hypersonics, supposedly, and even maneuverable warheads. So these are incredibly hard to take down. Is he waiting to have these as his like final send-out? The other thing I always wonder is when you have a human being like this, we all probably know somebody or have had an experience in life with a human being that on their way out did something crazy. Many of you probably know somebody that took their own in a crazy way. I know of one, sir. I knew him and met him, but just to spite his wife, he ended up jumping off of a 6-story building. It was very, very crazy. When you have people doing actions like that, think about if somebody was like that was in the position of running a country or running a hypersonic missile. But is he really as crazy as they say he is? Nobody really will know because we get everything through the filter of Western media and, of course, whatever 3-letter agencies want to do with that. But yeah, it's very crazy. Let's bring in my co-internet brother, Dex James. What is going on and how are you doing today?
Well, hello, Adam, and hello, Fugle fam. I'm doing just fine.
So as far as obviously he probably worked alongside, Russia to get these, right? We know Russia's given him the super EMP weapon a decade ago. And now, of course, they have the same hypersonics that Russia first said that they had, right?
Exactly. It's no surprise that as you continue to see Kim providing weapons that are necessary for Russia in their current conflict with UKR, that he's going to continue to get advancements back from Russia. And things like this are exactly that. And this is a big deal because, whether it's Guam or anywhere else, hypersonics move fast. And when they move fast, you may just get the warning of the launch, but before you know it, it's already there. As opposed to more traditional missiles, you may get the warning of the launch and you can do something about it. You can either defend against it or even have time to tell people to take cover. So these are significantly faster and they're supposed to be much more maneuverable. That's the whole point, is having the ability to maneuver while traveling at that high speed.
And as we talked about how he just had some sort of transaction with Russia where 6,700 containers went to Russia. 6,700 containers, which they think was artillery. They don't know if it was 155 millimeter ammunition. They don't know what it was, but they know that there was 6,700 containers of it. Was this the payment for that? Did they just get one of Russia's straight up, pristine hypersonic maneuverable missiles and test it in front of the world? Don't know. Did they help with that? And then another thing. So, Dex, think about this. Maybe they got the technology from Russia and then added one of their own warheads. But you would think if this was something that was made in Russia and gave to them, did the U.S. and other allies know as it was being transferred back over? My thought is that they could transfer all of the parts except for the warhead and not cause any proof that Russia gave it to him, right?
Well, he doesn't need their warhead. He's got warheads.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
All he needs is the engine components. It's about the engine components and the maneuverability and any of the navigation components that allow it to maneuver. All that stuff is probably easy to do. Now, many people think that 3-letter agencies are involved in this. So, on some extent, many people believe that we already know all this is happening because we play a role in it, or our 3-letter agencies do, or other groups, and that's one side of the equation that a lot of people try to look at when they look at the geopolitical global conflicts that go on. So certainly interesting.
And again, Russia could send them pretty much like just put your warhead on top kind of kit to them, and they would not be able to try. There's no radiation signature for the rest of the missile. It's just the warhead that they can track. I'm assuming, right? I don't even know this. Like, that's the thing. I always wondered. By the way, a suitcase nuke, right? We had a conversation about suitcase nukes, and we're probably going to talk about it later on in the show. But can those be detected from space? Can smaller nukes be moved around in secret? Do we know?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't even know how the signature process works for them to identify them, other than looking for radioactive signatures that are coming from those devices. And depending on the size and the yield, then that would probably determine how easy it is to detect or not. I would like to think that we have detecting units that are sensitive enough to find small scale, like you would think of a suitcase, something really small.
Well, and then
But,
they talked about adding that kind of capability to big events. I believe the last time they did something like that was for the NASCAR or the Indy 500. That's like one of the biggest events.
Yeah, but even in those events, what they're looking at is something that would be a little, in my opinion, is something that's easier to accomplish by those T cell groups, which is just getting radioactive material and attaching it to something that disperses it like an explosive. So it's dirty, in other words, and that is easier to pick up because that is probably a piece of something that's radioactive that's standing out, as opposed to something that's built into a detonating device that is designed to make in a small atomic flash, which is a very complex piece of equipment.
Well, so obviously pieces of the puzzle are moving around. And then the timing of all of these, and we see these stories, and like as the timing of one thing happens, it's like within a few days, you always see something that happens that's super related, but they never say it is. Air Force announces test of hypersonic weapon out of Guam base. Isn't that funny? All on the same day, right? It says the military reportedly conducted the weapons test on Sunday via a B-52H Stratofortress taking off from a base in Guam. It says, quote, this test launched a full prototype operational hypersonic missile and focused on the Arrow's end-to-end performance. The Air Force spokesperson said in a statement, according to Axios, the Air Force gained valuable insights into the capabilities of this new cutting-edge technology. New cutting-edge technology, yet, if they are correct, Russia had this before we did. And by the way, there were at least 3 different stories of times we tested new missiles and new technology, and 3 out of 3 were a fail. Do you remember that? And now, how this went kind of is a big deal. And then this is being tested out of Guam. I also want to point out that there was a video, which they say was SpaceX, a video seen from as far as Arizona and further, actually. But it was a SpaceX launch. A lot of people are posting these videos of this rocket going sideways through the sky. Dex, have you seen that video posted in the last couple days of the SpaceX flying sideways, and it's got that tail coming off of it almost like an asteroid?
Yes.
So
yes, I've seen it.
How did they explain why is it going sideways for so long? What is the explanation for that? Does it look for an exit or something? Like why?
It takes less power to go up at an angle than it does to go straight up against gravity, and it's also better to rotate or go in a certain direction with the rotation of the Earth when you're trying to get into orbit. So they always take off at least it's what they claim. I don't know rocket.
Well, I think they changed it.
They don't go. It may look like they're going straight up when you're standing there, but when they get up and they start to move, they go at an angle.
Well, I think. Do you remember all those stories about how SpaceX punched a hole in our atmosphere? And I think those were like straight up launches. Maybe they have to do it that way now. I know that there's a good chunk of people that are in disbelief it even happens, and they're probably like, yeah, of course it's going sideways. But again, I saw the newest videos of that, and it was really wild. Let me see if I can. Let's see here. Seen from Arizona. Let's see if yeah. Oh man. Okay, so this is similar. I actually saw a video of it, the actual thing I'm talking about. So yeah, this is what they look like, and you can see them from across states, right? And it's just a trip, and it makes me think of like the side theories that are going on right now, like that possibly they are, taking people or taking stuff off of the planet and setting up shop for a disaster that no one knows about. It is a trip to see this kind of thing, especially across multiple states. And there's the video that I'm talking about, I think. Let me see if... Yeah, the video that I'm talking about is actually, I think, this one. Yeah, there's a video taken from Arizona, and yeah, they say, what was in the sky over Phoenix last night? What to know about SpaceX rocket? Mind you, there's a lot of secret launches that are going on right now, and there's a lot of classified payloads that are going on right now. Makes me think of like the movie Greenland, where all the planes are leaving and all of they're basically evacuating, going towards some sort of crazy base, right? But they are literally saying that they're trying to get 1 million people to Mars by 2030. And I'm like, is that because they have to? Dex, go ahead.
Hey, Liz in our chat gave us some video from her place in Arizona, and I've got those in screener if you want to pull them.
Oh, sweet. All right. So again, you can submit your video at marfooglenews.com/playmyvideo. This is video from our Foogle fam, which is absolutely awesome. Again, you can actually get it on the live show if you go to Play My Video. So let me load this up real quick. Thank you, Liz. I appreciate that.
And I put her message in there too if you want to read it.
Look at that. Says, I got this from my backyard in Mesa, Arizona. SpaceX Falcon 9 launches 52 Starlink satellites from California's Vandenberg Force Base March 17th, 2023. I don't know what the last plane type was, but it just suddenly appeared. Seems strange, but the Gateway Airport didn't have anything flying out until the event was over. Huh, odd. So, except for maybe that, right? Hugs, if you can use this video, it's yours. Well, thank you, Liz. I appreciate that. Let's check this out. Wow, this is incredible. Yeah, so what is that thing right there? I guess it could have already been in the air, right? But they said they didn't have any air traffic going in or out during this event. Maybe it could have been a drone, actually. It could have been somebody with a personal drone filming it. I mean, I have not seen one of these in person. I've seen meteors. But even if you know it's SpaceX, it's still like absolutely crazy. And then we have, let's see here. We have this angle here too. Look at that. Great video, Liz. Thank you. I mean, isn't this like straight out of a movie? I mean, look at where we are right now. You've got people controlling computers with their brains, and you've got this becoming a regular occurrence where you have things that are supposedly going off into space, and who knows where their final destination actually is. What a trip. And then there was a number 1 here, so let's just see. Look at that. That's such a trip.
Wow.
Wow is right.
Sky Harbor direction.
If you have video like this, or if you even have, Ring doorbell cam video or anything interesting that you want to send us, again, you can send us at marfooglenews.com/playmyvideo if you want it shown to the fam. Try not to include or put any kind of copyrighted music on it. And then, of course, as long as it's not anything crazy, we will, of course, show it. So thank you, Liz. I appreciate that. By the way, let's do a quick roll call before we get any deeper into the crazy. There's a few things that are kind of scary. Again, I try to warn you guys, if it's a scary movie, don't watch scary movies. But as far as the really, really, really insane stuff with the Neuralink, that's coming up, so you don't want to miss that. We've got Mr. Hubo Diggs from America. We've got Terry Quinn. We've got Quinnock Steenholt from Greenland. I guess you're already set up. We have Nana of 7 from Virginia. Nana, it's nice to see you. TJ Dilly from Lakeland, Florida. Missouri, Charles May in the house. Mr. Misty C, what is happening? Can't believe I finally caught it live. Remember to subscribe too. A lot of people think they're subscribed. By the way, the subscribe, we've gotten so many DMs in the last 2 months about people that say they actually cannot subscribe, that it was broken. They were pushing it. They would refresh the page. They would go back and they were unsubscribed again. Don't know what the heck that is. But again, it's maybe check if that is the case. Even if you've watched and you always get recommended our videos from homepage, make sure to go check that subscribe button and make sure to hit the all notifications. It's much harder for them. And again, remember that they kind of make a decision for you if you don't do that. And they decide. If you watch this channel, then you should feel like, hey, if I want to watch something, I want to watch it. When you click that all notifications, that's like you agreeing with YouTube, like, I want all of their notification. They are supposed to give you all the notifications when you click that. So otherwise, they set it at default to some, or who knows if they even do it. So make sure to hit that notification and put it to all. It's very easy to do. And again, if you can, please do so. A lot of people are saying that it's not working. James King from Tulsa. We have Starbase Earth, Ryan Alter. Let's see here. Karen Rax, thank you. Single parent. Well, unfortunately, a lot of people do not know. And then Bad Allergies, CDN veteran. Hello from Nova Scotia. Lay Klinger, thank you. No, it is not. Peppermint West Coast, Canada. What is happening? Jackson, New Jersey. Liz Gaspari, Gunslinger 67, Camp Krusty, Maine. And, of course, Paul, what's going on? And we've got Samson at J. Pedroza. Hey, Indian Sue, what's happening? Rich Ned Kelly. We have Love One Another. We have Rebecca Snavely and Dave Chapp. Love One Another. Christ is the Way. Thank you. Anthony, James Blatterman, and Carlos Riviera from Australia, and Patty Lee. And Sweatin' Ministries in the house. Thank you, guys. Space Ace from Baton Rouge. What is happening? Northwest Ohio, Michigan, and Iowa. We have so many more, too. I know we've got Oregon in the house and so many more. Thank you for making it. All right. And then over to the map. So, again, just want to touch on one more thing. So, as far as the hypersonic missile, I really do wonder, Dex, like, as far as the stuff that is being tested and done, hopefully these are never used, but it kind of says something about where we are right now. Obviously, everybody's testing this. It's kind of crazy because all of these things, none of them can be used. Unless they're doing a conventional thing that just blows up a block, it's like a lot of these weapons, they're made and all the money is spent on them, potentially for them to sit there for 40 years never being used. Isn't that kind of crazy?
Yeah, that is in practical sense, when you think about them from a nuclear point of view, yes, absolutely, they probably will never get used. That's the whole point. But we did see in UKR that Russia used multiple hypersonics with conventional on them, and they were probably doing that to get real world testing as opposed to just their regular testing, to have production capabilities and see how it works. But at the same time, if the prices are affordable, and then we might actually see hypersonics become the norm for the delivery of any type of munition besides just nuclear.
Now, I want to point out there was a very strange story that came out. Essentially, officials on Guam said that they were getting people that were coming to the island, essentially illegals that were coming onto the island from a certain country. This is an official saying that all of a sudden they had a bunch of immigrants immigrating from China on Guam. When you look at the size of Guam and how much of this is actual military staff and military base, look at how much of the island, looking at a perspective of it, you can see it from space. Look at how much of it is base. Look at how big this airfield is compared to the size of the island. What do they think that these folks are there for? For jobs, right? Like, almost the entire island is, the entire landmass is folks that are working either with the military or for the military, or they're locals from way back, right? Or they're natives. But it is very, very strange to see that happening there. And then, let's see here. We've got China tells U.S. not to take sides on South China Sea issue. Obviously, we just covered that they have now confirmed that U.S. troops are not only stationed in Taiwan, but it's going to be of a permanent nature. This is a giant deal. They're essentially saying that there's going to be a permanent kind of fixture of U.S. troops in Taiwan. They just recently, in the last few months, have deployed five carrier strike groups to the South China Sea. So when we saw that, nobody really made a big deal out of it. That's what freaks me out, is when really nobody was really talking about it past the first day. 5 carriers are going towards the South China Sea, and nobody really bats an eyelash. Like, that's kind of crazy. Dex, do you want to tell us about what happened with China, and what are they telling us not to do?
Well, this is the response. It's exactly what we said was going to happen. Yesterday, we talked about Secretary of State Antony Blinken going to the Philippines, going to Manila, talking about and making the statement that, the U.S. security commitment with the Philippines is, quote unquote, ironclad. Well, of course, then China came back out and said, hey, from specifically coming out of the Chinese embassy, that the U.S. must refrain from, quote unquote, stirring up trouble or taking sides on the South China Sea issue. So it was also said that Blinken has again threatened China with the so-called U.S.-Philippines Mutual Defense Treaty obligations, which China firmly opposed. So if you remember, those are the obligations we also talked about last night, that says if any attack is done against the Philippines, that we will be there and support them and enforce in like kind until the UN can resolve the issue and determine what is the correct resolution. But until that point, we will fight for it. So, it's what we expected, but at the same time, it is reiterating that China is not happy with it, and the U.S. is not happy with China, and Philippines obviously are not happy with China, and it doesn't sound like anybody's getting along. And if anything, the escalations we've been seeing are just going to continue.
And essentially, they added in that that U.S. needs to keep their nose out of it, that they're not a party to have problems with the issues going on in their backyard. They are. Well, here's one of the quotes that really puts it in perspective. The U.S. keeps saying that it wants to safeguard freedom of navigation in the South China Sea, but in fact, it wants to guarantee the freedom of navigation of U.S. warships. The fact that U.S. warships and planes traveled thousands of miles to China's doorsteps to flaunt their might and provoke trouble is an out-and-out hegemonic activity, the Chinese embassy said. The warships and planes that traveled to the doorstep, that is the 5 carriers. It definitely is a show of might. In 1993, while Clinton was president, the first time they started kind of pushing on Taiwan, Clinton sent 3 carrier strike groups. And this could be incorrect. Dex, could you check on the 1993 push on Taiwan? I believe it was 3 carrier strike groups. And they actually backed off of Taiwan for many years. That was us flexing our muscles. This time, the last time we did it, at the beginning of this Taiwan stuff, they didn't blink an eye. So I don't know if they stepped it up all the way to 5 carriers to be like, this is not a game. But they're not trembling in their boots like they once would have. In 93, if we would have done this, they would have just stopped immediately what they were doing because they couldn't match us in any way. Now, people are debating whether they are or not, but they are certainly not going to give up until they are. And if you look at what's going on with our geopolitics and what's happening with our military, it's like we're on a line like this. Meanwhile, they're on a line like this. They are actively trying to absolutely match us in every way or beat us in every way. And you could say maybe they're not there yet now. Of course, they're not in many areas, but they are on the path to. It is their one goal is to surpass the U.S. in every area. And they've done it. They are the largest Navy. They don't have as many carriers, but they're building them. They said that they would have their 3rd carrier by, I think it was 2027. Now they're working on their 4th. We just covered that about a week ago. It's 2024 right now. They say that they're trying to finish up their 4th. The Navy grew so fast that when they were reevaluating, nobody could believe that under the cover of these covered manufacturing warehouses, that they essentially pumped out all sorts of Navy destroyers and boats and everything else to become the largest Navy in the world. Now, it's not 1 for 1 because we have 11 carriers or 12, I think it's 11 carriers. Those are the strongest ships in the thing. But along with their 3 or 4 that they have now, they have also developed technology that might make our carriers null and void. They say that they have these low Earth atmosphere satellites that can actually, they say it could take as little as 7 or 8 to essentially make all of the radar on all of our carriers useless. If that is true, that's terrifying. They say it was as little as like 23 or 30 or something, between 20 and 30 of these satellites. They say they could block the entire world out. They could stop all of the radar around the world. That was what we just recently covered. Now they've sent 5 carrier strike groups. You've got what's going on with the Philippines, and we have this treaty with the Philippines saying that we absolutely will step in. Taiwan, they are now saying that they're going to permanently station U.S. troops there, which, if that is the truth, any attack on Taiwan, you're going to have American troops there. Not just American citizens or dual citizens. You're talking about American troops in Taiwan. Not to mention, we as we said on the last video, they are in Kinmen Island. We showed you the map of that. In fact, it's right here. So check this out. I was trying to show you this, and with this map, it's a lot easier to see kind of how big it is and how close it is. This is main Taiwan. Over here, let's see, where is it here? Yeah, this is Kinmen County. Put in perspective, this is a few miles off of China. Dex, you said you did confirm it, right? We have confirmation of U.S. troops in Kinmen County.
That's correct.
There are U.S. troops right here. This is China. There are 5 strike groups sitting off of here, and nothing's going on? Okay. Keep saying that. When the bombs are dropping, people are going to go, I think it's fake news. I don't know. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments down below. Love to hear from you guys. What do you think is happening? Sweat and Ministries, thank you so much for your support. I appreciate that. Thank you. Uncle Iro says, thank you, Adam, Dex, and Mods for all you do. thank you. And make sure to go check out your mods over at marfooglenews.com/friends. Mind you, you can actually access all of the mods channels. They all have great content. Especially lately, Trinity's been pumping out just great videos. She puts a lot of editing, a lot of time into her videos. Wages World has been covering all of the solar events. Ilea, of course, has an animal sanctuary. Go check out what's going on with that. Rip Curl is a great prepper. He's got a lot of great information. He always films all of his adventures, so go check him out. Jammer, of course, has a great Twitter. Go follow him. Go check out his Telegram. CJ Blaze, Gem, Chance, and of course, Lisa. We miss you. Bones, Chance, and everyone else. Don't forget about RGL. Thanks for going over and checking those guys out. Uncle Iro, thanks Adam, Dex, and Mods for all you do. God-fearing Foogle fam, please keep my sister and her family in your prayers. They're probably losing their housing solution soon. Please pray for God to provide for them. Uncle Iro, I'm really sorry to hear that. I know there's a lot of people in that same spot right now. There's been more evictions in the last year than in history, especially after that all the CV stuff ended. All of the I forget what they called it. It's not a mandate, but it was something else. The what was it called? Not a memoriam. It was the they prevented anybody from getting evicted during CV. And then Sweatin' Ministries, anyone find it convenient all the closures for this solar eclipse? All the closures for the solar eclipse. Sweatin', I don't know what's going to happen that day. They're warning people. They're telling people to stay home for it. And they're closing a lot of stuff. I do find it pretty convenient, and I'm hoping that nothing happens on that weekend. And then Jess B. Bug, thank you so much. I appreciate that. Thank you for the super chat. And of course, over on D Live, thank you everybody that just made it in. Yeah, so they're saying keep your nose out of our issues. Before we move on, make sure to go check out EMP Shield. This is a device that can protect you and your cars, your trucks, your motorcycles, pretty much anything that you have that you want to keep running through either an EMP strike or a Carrington level event from the sun. Then you would want to have an EMP shield on it. More and more people are saying, again, that they are a couple days delayed. Again, they've been just off the hook over at EMP Shield. Again, that is because of all of the crazy stuff that's going on. They were very transparent. They told us instead of like next day, they usually ship out and it's there like that, that it will take a couple days. So remember that. Go over to marfooglenews.com/EMP. It takes 10 minutes to put it in, and then it will ground the signal in less than 500 trillionths of a second before an EMP or a Carrington level event from the sun is able to fry it. So that way you can get out to bug out. You can drive home to get in to bug in, or you can protect your generators so they continue to work after all of these events occur. So again, marfooglenews.com/EMP, and make sure to use the code MARF. It's the same company that has been contracted and used by agencies like DHS, DOD, and now the DEMSO team helping protect the Texas grid. Unfortunately, though, the government has not protected anything except for themselves. So if you do want to protect yourself, you're going to have to do it yourself. marfooglenews.com/EMP, and make sure to use the code MARF. Thank you. And remember, you get $50 off per device, and you support us at the same time. And then from San Francisco, live stream of Neuralink demonstrating telepathy, controlling a computer and playing video games just by thinking. So this is absolutely crazy. Okay, so this was the Neuralink live stream here. So let's watch a second of this here. Move me there. Check this out.
And I'd like to introduce you to the first ever user of the Neuralink device. And I think you're my only telekinetic friend that I have.
Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah, not many more.
So So again, this is the first patient. This is the guy we all heard about that got this done.
For those out there, you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, my name's Nolan Arbaugh. I'm 29 years old. About 8 years ago, I was in kind of a freak diving accident and dislocated my C4, C5. So I'm a complete quadriplegic. So I'm paralyzed from below the shoulders.
Now, I don't, you know what? I didn't think about it, but all that stuff in the background here. So he is a complete paraplegic, and he is the first test subject. I want to skip forward a little bit here because this is absolutely nuts. He starts controlling things with his mind. He describes, essentially, he thinks about it, and so this is what I don't understand is how are they doing this? If they can do this, what else can they do? If you open up somebody's head and you just look at our brain, how in the world are they able to wouldn't it be microscopic? Like, you can't see a thought, right? Or can you? That's what I don't understand. How, and I don't even think a rocket scientist could figure this out. Let me refresh this because it looks like it got hung up on it because I paused it here. But let's look at this.
Basically went from what we call kind of differentiating, like imagined movement versus attempted movement. So a lot of what we started out with was attempting to move. So I would attempt to move, say, my right hand, left, right, forward, back to move. And from there, I think it just became intuitive for me to start imagining the cursor moving. Basically, it was like using the force on a cursor, and I could get it to move wherever I wanted. Just stare somewhere in the screen, and it would move where I wanted it to.
Do people understand how big of a deal this is? This is unbelievable.
Which was such a wild experience.
This guy wants to know if you feel like a wizard.
Yeah, right. It's crazy. It really is. It's so cool. I'm so freaking lucky to be a part of this and stuff. I mean, every day it seems like we're learning new stuff. And
now, mind you, this gentleman could have died on the operating table. They had to dig into his brains. Gad Saad said, wow, I met a neurosurgeon at a recent function that I was speaking at who told me that he was part of the team that chose the first human Neuralink participant. I wonder if this is the gentleman shown in the clip. I believe it is. Mike Ben says, incredible. This is life-changing, says Tara Bull. Says, I just hope the technology never falls into the wrong hands. And that is a huge point. Is we think about, and this is a feel-good video for sure. This is an amazing thing. I mean, like, he is a quadriplegic that now, through this technology, may be able to control. Like I said, well, soon they'll have a robotic arm that he'll just be able to think about picking up something. And Dex, can you repeat what you said earlier? You said you don't even need a robotic arm.
Well, I mean, yeah, at some point they're going to, you can think that they can create limbs that you could control. But even before that, you should be able to control a robot itself that could do things for you, whether it, be a bipedal robot like the one Elon's making, or just a task robot that does things for you if you're quadriplegic, like telling it to go get food for you and bring it to you, or go, open the door or do whatever it needs to do. You could just think it and tell it, and it will do it. And that's a huge upgrade for the quality of life for folks that are in this position and have no ability to move. So yeah, the feel good side of what they're doing is great. Now he also said in that interview, or in that live stream, that the surgery was fairly simple to him. He was able to go home the next day from the hospital. It was, I don't know if he called it painless. I don't know if he used those words, but he didn't make it out to be like it was a big deal at all. And if I recall, they do obviously open up the skull, but the whole surgery is done by a robot because it's a very small, quick, or precision type surgery that's done by the robot that does it, as opposed to human hands.
Yeah, but I still, it's just like, how in the world, I guess they did it on monkeys. They must have lost a ton of monkeys. Like they must have apes. They must have. How do you test something like this? And then I guess how it works is they did it on so many. They took a what?
They took a hit on that with the monkeys. Remember, they were lambasted for all of the quote unquote abuse, as they wanted to say. Anything they could say negative about Elon, but they talked about all the monkeys. But I mean, think about it. Just like you're saying, like you've got to do it first somewhere, and you got to iron out the kinks. And where's that going to be? It's do you do it first on a human, or do you do it first on an animal? And they always test things on animals first. So.
Well, and then after so many
doing it here,
how many did it take before they were like, okay, we'll do it on a human? And then that first human, I mean, I would understand. I kind of understand. Like, I obviously it wasn't done on somebody without, in his position. It's kind of like he can only gain function or perish, right? Obviously, being a quadriplegic, he's happy to be alive, but it is a very, very hard life to live when you have zero control over your body. I mean, you are kind of living in a body that's kind of just a shell. The rest of it is all done with whatever technology we have today. I mean, what do you guys think about this? And can you think of some ideas of how could this fall in the wrong hands? How could this be used for evil? How could this be used for spying? I mean, if they can literally read your thoughts, think about if they sell this as something that, hey, this is your next computer. Forget about having a phone or a floating screen or even glasses with a screen. Think about if the screen is built into your head. You have the internet. You have access to everything. Or you interact with the world. They could have screens on every wall, everywhere you walk. They could have ads pop up out at you when somebody without the Neuralink might not even see those ads. There's a reason why they're selling digital rights to all of the world. Right now, they're actually selling digital, what is it? It's not landscape. It's a digital property. Essentially, you might own the hot dog stand on the corner, but somebody else may have purchased the digital rights to that. So as somebody's driving down the road in AR, say they have AR glasses giving them directions with their Apple Pro 4000 or whatever, and they see a virtual banner that's not really there. If you take the glasses off, there's nothing there, but they see a billboard with an advertisement. Who did that advertisement pay to put it right above that hot dog stand? Well, whoever owns the digital rights to that block. They're actually already selling that to people. People are investing in it, even though it has no purpose yet. Something like this, that's where it's going to come in. That's kind of crazy to think about. You drive by a McDonald's and there's a virtual billboard that doesn't exist, but everybody with the Neuralink chip will see it. Something like that is in our future. That's really, really, really insane. Let's pop over to the chat. What do you guys think about it? It says a breakthrough that occurs via making external detection devices that can detect vocal cord reaction to thoughts, aka internal monologue. Yeah, imagine No, yeah, R2 says, no, I'm good. Imagine if if it was like what women want, and you could just think, you could hear everybody's thoughts out loud. That would be freaky. I think there was a good movie that showed that men in the future, that all the women were gone and all the men's thoughts. It had that kid from Hunger Games. I think it was Hunger Games, but the kid that's been in a lot of stuff. But it shows every thought that a man had was like a visual thought, and it popped up over their head. And it's like, think about something like this in that nature. Like, that seemed like an absurd movie plot. Maybe not so much in the future. Who knows? Lots of great comments. And then U.S. and Japan seek to ban nuclear weapons in outer space. Whoa. Think about the timing of this. Dex.
Yeah, certainly. So the fact that we have been talking about nukes in space has been a hot topic, especially as of late, with Russia allegedly potentially putting, or the U.S. is saying they may be doing it, although I suspect they've already done it, and many others have suspected they've done it before already as well. But putting nukes in space for either the purpose of wiping out satellites or also the purpose of launching electromagnetic pulse attacks, high-altitude EMPs. We've got now the U.S. and Japan looking to the UN to actually create a rule for all nations to ban putting nukes in space. So right now there's a treaty that was already in place, but only a handful of nations. The Outer Space Treaty ratified about 114 countries, including the United States and Russia, prohibiting the deployment of nuclear weapons or any other kind of weapon of mass destruction in orbit, or stationing of weapons in outer space in any other manner. That's what they claim was the Outer Space Treaty ratified by 114 countries. But what they're asking for is a similar sanction or rule from the UN that applies to all countries. I don't know that it really changes anything, because even if Russia signed this and they're still going to put them up there, they already have. It doesn't change anything because we suspect that even Kim, for that matter, has them. And the only reason we think Kim has them is he's got 2 satellites that are orbiting over from a north to south format that are going right over the sweet spot, or the kill spot, which is right about Kansas. If you launch a high altitude EMP right over about Kansas area, it's in the sweet spot where it'll sweep all the way to the East Coast and West Coast up into Canada and just below into the border of Mexico. So it pretty much is the right area in which you can hit most all of America. Of course, anybody right in the Kansas area will get the strongest wave, and everybody out in the East and West Coast will get the lightest wave and may have the more minimal damage compared to those in the center. But the reason I say that is he's got satellites that are orbiting that exact spot. He's got 2 of them, and those 2 have been silent since the day they were launched, meaning they send 0 communication to them. So they're either waiting in dormancy, waiting to be told what to do, or they're dead and they just weren't working right. But why are they orbiting over the sweet spot? We also see that with others as well. So. And that's not us talking. That's out there. That's factual. You can go research it. Everybody from Peter Pry to others have talked about the fact that that those low yield nukes that he was testing, that everyone made fun of him for doing, were actually really low yield nukes. The kind of nukes you would use in an EMP. You don't need a big one. It's very small. It doesn't have to be that big. So I actually think there's probably already some up there, especially between Russia and maybe even China, but Russia and definitely North Korea, as it's been researched. But they're trying to make a big deal about this with the UN. At the end of the day, it's already there. Nobody's going to change what they're doing.
Yeah, listen to the words out of the DoD spokesperson, or not even, it was one of the DoD officials that came out, and he said that Russia and China had weaponized space. This was in the same time span as the talk of the satellites and the stuff floating over the middle of the country. This was when they also talked about directed energy being real. It was when it all came out that, it wasn't a theory and that it was actually something that was real. Before that announcement, it was only a conspiracy. Directed energy was actually, they booted people off for, false info that talked about that kind of stuff. And that's what gets me. It's like something like that. If you rewind a couple years before it was announced and it was true, it's like people were booted off for that. That was a theory that would not go to bed. Everybody said, no, this is a real thing. Look at the stuff that is now considered theory that everybody it will not let go of. A lot of those end up being true, or at least a part of those theories are true. And there's some scary ones out there that just will not go to bed, so keep that in mind. With the DoD and them, they said that North Korea, those were all failures. I remember on the news cycle watching that 10, 15 years ago, 2006, when they kept testing it, and they said, haha, they were laughing at North Korea, saying they failed. They just having one failure after another. Now, Peter Price said essentially all of those were successes. They had success. They physically blew up a low-yield nuke that caused a tiny earthquake, and everybody said, it was a failure. It was super tiny. Meanwhile, they were perfecting a low-yield weapon that was perfect for a super EMP weapon. Later on, they also found out that Russia had given them the weapon. Russia actually said, well, they either took it from us or we gave it to them. You guys decide. So they gave it to them. And then speaking of Russia, Russia warns of potential military strike on SpaceX satellites. I forgot to mention this for the China part. As far as China's pissed off about Taiwan. Obviously, there's boots on the ground in Taiwan, and they're saying that they're going to stay there. There's 5 carriers deployed to China, and there's even U.S. troops on Kinmen Island, which is 3 or 4 miles off of China's border. The same day that the last official visited Taiwan, we had the AT&T outage. Nationwide, AT&T and Verizon phones went down. And, of course, the pharmacies, 30,000 pharmacies went down. There were huge hacks that day. A lot of things went down that they didn't even talk about. Servers for all sorts of different websites went down. Some of them for 4 hours, some of them for 8 hours, some of them for 2 days until they could fix it. And, that all goes off of that. And these were cyber events. Well, Russia's warning of potential military strike on what they say are legit targets. In fact, or they say legitimate targets. Russia has accused the U.S. of using commercial satellite operators for its intelligence efforts and is threatening to take military action in response. The news comes days after Reuters released a report earlier this month detailing a classified contract that SpaceX signed with the U.S. intelligence agency to launch hundreds of spy satellites. It says, quote, "We are aware of Washington's efforts to attract the private sector to serve its military space ambitions," Foreign Ministry spokesman Maria Zakharova told reporters. It says, these systems become a legitimate target for retaliatory measures, including military ones. Military X, by the way, this is where Starshield, we had to verify this. This was like, Dex and I were talking about this earlier, and I was like, whoa, it's called Starshield? Insider sources talk about this Military X thing, says that SpaceX was working on a massive constellation of spy satellites under its military-focused business unit called Starshield. I'm going to go off on a 1 minute and 30-second rant about this. You guys know about my side theory that maybe something's coming at us and they know about it. Maybe there's an asteroid out there with our name on it. Who knows? This is just a side theory that I've had a gut feeling about, something like this, that would explain why everybody's trying to grab their neighbors and everybody's doing all this crazy stuff. Something that they knew about why maybe Sunspot Solar Observatory and all of the other observatories shut down and Black Hawk helicopters came in. Something like that. Why they're, trying to get to Mars, why they're building bunkers like crazy, why they're putting their money into everything but the US dollar, selling all their stuff, spending time with family, the great CEO exodus, so on. I talked about this years ago, how they might be able to make a grid around the Earth to protect it from things. This is actually theorized by scientists in the space of, like, you know, these documentaries that talk about end of the world, or if a solar event happened big enough, it could knock out our magnetosphere, or the magnetosphere could basically fade away for a time being, and after a solar event, and then our planet would be left kind of just with no protection for a time period until it recharged, supposedly. That they could do this with machines, that they could do this with a satellite grid around Earth. Now, at first, they're only saying it's like 1,000 or whatever this constellation was, but what if in the next year they do another 1,000 and another 1,000, and they say it's a military grid? Now, mind you, they're saying this is a surveillance grid, so these would be permanent. Dex and I were talking, and Dex had great points that if you have surveillance, Dex said, so say here's a surveillance satellite. It's over the U.S. right now. They need to look at something in China, so they have to move that asset over to China to look at where they need to go. That also possibly could be tracked, so China knows that they're moving over there to look. Or if, they need to look over here, but they still need to watch this, do they bring a second one, or do they move away from that and now they're not watching that? But if you have a grid of surveillance, which they're openly saying, a grid of surveillance satellites, you could watch everything all at once and never miss anything. China, of course, doesn't want this. China doesn't want surveillance everywhere, anywhere at all times. So it could be as exactly valid as they say, that this is a grid system of surveillance that could watch anywhere and everywhere on Earth at some point. But my side thought is, what if this is... And by the way, I also called, and I think I was the first one to call, when SpaceX started launching these constellations, I said, I believe they are going to put detectors on them for fast objects or asteroids. Found out 2 years later, and then I think this is one of the few things I can actually brag about. I said, I think that they are there to detect fast objects. They end up announcing that 1 out of 4 SpaceX satellites is able to detect hypersonic objects. When you get into hypersonic speeds, you also get into the 10, 20, 15,000, 20,000, 25,000 miles per hour that an asteroid or a meteor would be. Some are faster, but what if these are there to detect things coming in that they don't see? That was my other thought. And then you create hypersonic missiles and things like that to try to hit them or try to destroy them. But with this this Starshield, what does that sound like? I know it's just a name, but Starshield? It doesn't sound like a surveillance thing. It's called shield. It's shielding them from something. We've also seen other planets far off where they saw it dimming and things, and there was these theories that maybe this far off star is dimming is because, and I forget what they call the word for it, but it's like a structure that goes around a planet that harvests its sunlight or something like that, or it goes some sort of system that goes around a star and harvests its power. But some theorize that maybe there was a grid around it of mechanical nature. And I was thinking, man, what if we are doing something in that light? Say if a solar event happens, knocks down our magnetosphere, that this SpaceX Military X Starshield would then somehow connect and be the magnetosphere. Is that something that's even half possible? Or is this just totally crackpot? And it's okay to say yes. I'm not a rocket scientist. And again, Dex's point, all valid points, and it probably is just that they're honestly trying to just monitor us at all times. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments down below. Mind you, we've talked to people, some very high-ranking people, that talked about how they're already preparing for space debris and putting money aside for space debris cleanup that's on such a scale, money-wise, that you're thinking, like, what is going to happen to the planet? I don't know. What do you guys think? Is there a reason why, maybe Solar Observatory, somebody caught something they weren't supposed to see? I don't know. And then, Dex, do you want to talk about the Houthi cruise missile hits Israel in ominous? And then, of course, if you have anything on the grid as well.
Well, I mean, yeah, they have like somewhere between 300 and 400 satellites to some varying degrees of military use. Not all of them are necessarily, surveillance satellites. They do lots of different things with them. So you got to figure there's a number less than that can pinpoint a single location and look on land, right? So if they can only look at, say, let's just call it 250, they can only look at 250 or maybe even 300 locations at one time. That's not a lot. And you see in the movies how they replicate that, and it probably is some truth to it because they use consultants that have insight to how it works. It's not like they're looking over all of America or an entire state or an entire city. They're looking at a small section because they're trying to monitor some sort of action that's happening, with a covert activity or a bad guy or whatever. So, having a constellation of thousands and thousands of satellites up there that have a wider, maybe not as high as resolution, but a wider presence across the globe, especially in adversarial areas. It's going to be a giant eye in the sky. It's not cool either. I mean, it may sound cool technically, it may sound cool from a military point of view, but it's also not cool thinking about the government having the ability to watch us at all times or watch our enemies at all times. And if they can watch our enemies at all times, they can watch us at all times. So, yeah. So moving on, Houthis, the cruise missile, they have fired some earlier on and they were intercepted. If you remember, that was the very beginnings of the event after October. And we had talked about taking down those, and they'd never really made one stick, so to speak, or make it to its target. Well, now they did. Now they've gotten there. And this is hot on the heels of them announcing that they potentially have a hypersonic. This is hot on the heels of them making major damage to ships, not only striking some and causing them to have to be abandoned or sank, but it just seems like they're advancing and advancing. So at this point, they have struck. It's a southern town. It's a port town, but it is in Israel. So they did make a location and hit a location. It's the first time they have actually done that with a cruise missile from Yemen. So that's why it's important, because if they're able to continue to do this, there's a couple things that come to mind as why wasn't it detected and taken out by our ships, because we should be able to intercept. And then second is why wasn't it taken out by Israel's Iron Dome? Because it should have been able to see it and intercept. And then, oh, by the way, they obviously have the capability and technology to get there and potentially get past our defenses. So that's something to pay attention to if this continues. Maybe it's just a one-off, but we'll see.
Okay, does anyone else see the pattern here? The U.S. is moving hypersonics to Guam. You have Kim Jong-un, North Korea, now with new hypersonics. You have the Houthis and Iran, potentially them now with hypersonics. You have missiles and things that were just shipped to Belarus. Again, possible hypersonics were shipped there. You have all of our adversaries preparing and all of our allies preparing. You have every country in the world specifically preparing for something really scary. You have deployments to the South China Sea. You have deployments to NATO. And now you also have NATO countries straight up saying there's going to be a war with Russia. And people are still saying, nah, they're just trying to scare us. But how much of that was because we've been screwed with and had every single angle gone down? Now everybody, the view is everything is a distraction. But in all of those distractions, there's a real thing happening here. It's called World War, and it happens from time to time. And it's not like, I don't think it's going to be the end of the world. It's the beginning of the new one. And this new one will have the same people at the very top totally safe from all of it. It's going to be us that are, of course, in duress. So it's, I mean, look at the same day we have the same 3-day period. Hypersonics here, hypersonics there, hypersonics there, hypersonics there. Everybody is loading up. What was the thing with? There was something too, like there was some Cuba thing too, like. But yeah, all of this is happening all at the same time. Does anyone think that that's a coincidence? I don't think so. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments down below. Anthony, seeking truth, getting tight. Kathy Piana says, no, God in charge. No, hey, I agree. I do think that, though, there are things that physically are going to happen. Hopefully a lot of folks have faith in what's going to happen. You have to spiritually be ready for what's going to happen as much as you are physically prepared. Mob-type technology, Rapture Soon, Sweatin' Ministries, Fort William, Texas, what's going on? Ron Sipple, artist, war, yeah. I don't get why people don't think it's going to be a war. Shell Spells says, Jesus is coming. Well, if he doesn't, it's again we have wars, and that's the thing. It depends on how bad this thing is. But there's a lot of signs. The reason why people keep saying that, and people have said it for a long time, I think there are more biblical signs that something is coming than there's ever been in history. But yeah, I guess we'll all see. It's a waiting game at this point. And then Israel. Anonymous claims infiltrated Israel's nuclear plant in Dimona. So, by the way, I did not know this until a couple weeks ago. I know it wasn't super well known. I know, Dex, you just found this out too. I found this out a couple weeks ago when I was scrolling Twitter. And I was kind of in disbelief. I didn't know that this group, Anonymous, has actually shifted very one direction. They're on the L side of the aisle now. And it's not, you can't speak for all of it because the group itself is like basically a group of everybody. But they do have official accounts, which used to be the representation of them, right? And one of the biggest accounts of them has basically been anti-T-Man, been completely on one side of the aisle. All of the beliefs that they have been sharing on their official stuff has been of that. And they are the ones who are also then now saying that they're infiltrating Israel's nuclear plant. Dex, as far as what they're saying that they got into their nuclear plant. That's a big thing.
Yeah, and this is a group with the same name, but it's Opal, O-P-I-L, so anonymous _ Opal. But it's a known hacking group, and they've got, and so I don't know how if there's some sort of organization of anons, or if everybody just likes to use the name. So I don't know to what extent this is inside that organization, the larger one, or not, or I don't even know that they're an organization as much as they're just a name, but nonetheless, they haven't actually infiltrated, at least at this point, according to Israel, they haven't actually infiltrated the controls or the operations of the nuclear plant, but they did come out and say they had gigabytes of detailed information, 7 gigs of data that they have taken from the plant, meaning they did infiltrate it in some way, shape, or form. So according to the hackers, they have 4,000 plus PDFs, they have 5,000 plus emails, 1,300 plus Word documents, a bunch of Excel documents, and a bunch of PowerPoint presentations and more. And they're using that as a threat to Israel to stop what they're doing. So, nuclear power plants are very important and also, dangerous if they are getting infiltrated. And this type of infiltration, whether it be benign or not, is a serious, serious threat. So I guess we'll have to see if anything more comes of it, as this, in the sense that they actually have inside access to the plant itself versus just having access to some documents and data that they were able to pull that's related to the plant. But that's the threat they're wielding right now towards Israel.
Yeah, and then as far as what is the data from a nuclear plant actually? What can they do with that? How does that wield the power? And again, yeah, I don't know if they're connected to the big groups and the big channels that represent it, but you would think that they wouldn't be able to say something with so much candor without other I guess people in that group going against them. There is a history with that group. I didn't know this though. Another one of their main people, one of their big leaders, ended up, I guess, turning towards the Gov and busting a lot of people. I'll have to go back to that story, but there's a big story that happened, and now most people think that something is going on with the group. But I'm not going to say I know about it. But I thought it was kind of unique that the views of the official are actually lining up with the groups that are the attacks that are going on. And then we have, let's see here, D.C. Iranian threats to U.S. have metastasized as proxies employ tactics targeting the Homeland House hearing. So we've heard a lot of chatter about different events possibly happening nationwide. Now, some of our Fugel fan members, a couple of sheriffs actually have spoken out. One is, well, I should say this. One works at a sheriff's department and works in the office of a sheriff's department. The other is a sheriff. Now, after Sheriff Rick Jones, separately, this was one of the well-known Sheriff Rick Jones, came out and essentially said that the 3,300 sheriffs went to the FBI, they debriefed them, and they said that there was going to be, before November, that there would be nationwide attacks on local govs, and that they would be going after the selection process specifically, but there would also be potential for events happening all over the country. That's pretty freaky. He also specifically brought up the people coming from the South and where the countries that they're coming from. Now, there's refugees and families just trying to look for a better home, but there's also bad guys mixed in. This is what he was saying. And that these people are the baddest of the bad. These are bad hombres coming from bad places, and they hate us. They don't only hate us. It is their entire life purpose to destroy us. At the same time, you have these threats from our adversaries. You have, of course, a lot of rhetoric coming from all of our adversaries. And now you physically have people that are here from these countries. So that's a really scary thought. There's a lot of rumors and chatter and official announcements saying that it is worse than it was during 2001. Are people really thinking that this is going to be a big nothing burger? I hope so. If it's not, you can think it's a Fantastic Freddy. You can think it's all actually what they say it is. But it seems like something is about to go down. That's judging off of the chatter, off of military, off of sheriffs. But Fugel Fam sheriff and they're police officers for the sheriff's department say that it is absolutely something that they are all talking about. That this is, they're doing trainings. They are getting prepared for any possible event, including radiological, chemical, bio, all sorts of different events, and that they're worried specifically about big city centers. Now, that could be done on purpose from the top down to scare everybody. You are correct. But this is what people are worried about. Now they're saying that these threats have metastasized, a word that is usually used for cancer spreading, right? And now they say that there's these threats towards the homeland. The security threats from Iran and their proxies have metastasized even more. These threats include plots on former T-Man administration officials, which, by the way, Iran itself put out a video essentially showing T-Man getting taken out by a drone. The Ayatollah himself shared that on Twitter, and they didn't take it down. I don't think they did. Targeting and attacking U.S. service members abroad, disrupting trade and commerce and endangering maritime security in the Red Sea, and attempting to coordinate external air operations in Europe and South America. Chairman Mark Green, a Republican from Tennessee, said during the hearing. The committee held a hearing titled Examining the Current Status of Iran's Axis of Resistance and the Implications for Homeland Security and U.S. Interests. It said Wednesday morning where lawmakers spoke with 4 intelligence leaders with access to the scope and pace of threats posed to the homeland by Iran's proxy forces. The hearing comes as Israel war continues with Hamas. Hamas terrorists launched attacks on the nation on October 7th. The Hezbollah leaders have since said that Iran's IRGC had worked with Hamas since August on air, land, and sea attack plans. The witness Wednesday included Robert Wells, Assistant Director of FBI's Counterterrorism Division, James Dunlap, Deputy Undersecretary for Analysis at Homeland Security's Office, Kerry Thompson, Chief of Intelligence at the DEA, and Elizabeth Richard, the State Department's Coordinator for Counterterrorism with the rank and status of Ambassador at Large. Ambassador at Large? What the heck kind of title is that? It's like you're an ambassador, but you're at large. Anyways, Green said in a hearing that Iran has an extensive list of proxy organizations known as, and they named it Iran's Axis of Resistance, something like straight out of Get Smart or something. Indubitably, which operate independent militia groups that Iran uses to enhance their power. Green identified the terrorist proxies at Hezbollah, Hamas, the Houthis, Palestinian Jihad, and other Iraqi and Syrian militia groups. These proxies and their sympathizers are present in countries such as Lebanon, Iran, Yemen, Iraq, and Syria. In exchange for these groups' support and actions, they receive significant financial backing, material support, and training from the Iranian regime. You see the framework being set up here? They're telling us where this is coming from. The FBI remains concerned Hezbollah, Iran's primary strategic partner, could conduct retaliatory attacks against former U.S. officials not only overseas, but also in the U.S. They have put all of this out, and it very well could go nowhere, but what's crazy is that this is not at the tip of the spear of the media. This is not being pushed everywhere. It's just being put out. And that's why in 4 months, or even tomorrow, in 3 days from now, people will forget about this. That's how the news cycle goes. This will be put out quietly, and then in 3 days, people will be totally distracted on something else. There's so much information and so much news that now they can put this kind of stuff out, and it doesn't cause a panic. By the way, if this was, I don't know, maybe if it was 20 years ago, do you think people would go out and buy prep and stuff like that? If this was put out on the 3 or 4 channels there were of news, and it was put out to every family home across the country, hey, there's probably going to be things going on in the country in the next 6 months, you would think more people would prepare. But this is quietly getting put out there in 3 days. Nobody will even remember this. We'll be bringing it up because, again, you can't forget last week's news. It all fits together. It's part of a bigger puzzle. There's a pattern here, and this stuff happens right before big events. You get this kind of chatter before big events. And they're saying it straight up. And they think because they're saying it straight up that people will go, but they're telling us, so it's probably not true. Time will tell, though. I bet you that most of us preppers are going to be on the positive side of this. Dex, do you want to talk about that? And then Florida vows to send Haitian migrants where?
Yeah, so they're sending, they're threatening if this happens to turn into the bigger deal that they're expecting, to actually do what they've done before with other migrants and ship them off to Martha's Vineyard and other places like Sacramento and other locations to sort of, as Ron DeSantis says or refers to as sort of spreading the problem. So it's not just his problem, it's the rest of the country, especially those that are voting in favor to allow this kind of stuff to happen. Can feel the effects of it. So this is very similar to what Texas has done and other locations have done with pushing migrants to other locations. And you see the effects in New York and in Chicago and other places where they get really upset and they're kind of overwhelmed and say they can't handle it. But it's not just that. He's now moving and deploying more soldiers to barricade the coastlines, and obviously this. What is happening in Haiti is growing at a greater pace. And I think the biggest thing they're worried about is obviously migrants jumping in boats, which they've already seen. They've already had numerous boats that they've run into. One specifically we already covered on the show, where they turned them over to the Coast Guard. They found them with weapons and drugs and even night vision goggles or night vision capability. Not sure why, regular migrants fleeing with children, families with children need that. That's probably not what was on the boat. It was probably some other people that were on that boat that might not be, ideal for society if they're coming in and have bad intent.
Yeah, in case you missed that again, they found a boat full of weapons and night vision goggles and a group of men. That boat actually did have Wii ones on it too. So it's like, what the heck were they doing? Was that just to get across the border? Was that just night vision goggles to get through some fences or through some dark areas, or was it something else? And then if you haven't already, make sure to go check out Harvest Right. If this is, again, one of the best ways to do freeze-dried food once you get the system. Again, the system is not cheap. This is an investment, but it depends on how much you are trying to prepare. If you have a huge family, this is actually the cost-efficient way to do it because prepackaged freeze-dried food is as much as 4 times as much as if you do it yourself. If you can think about it, if you have the actual machine, you can go about the most affordable ways of finding and procuring food as you want, including growing it. You can take food straight out of your garden and freeze-dry it, and it will last for 25 years. Harvest Right, the reason why we picked them, they are one of the best companies in the world to make freeze dryers. They were the most coveted through CV and everything else that went down. In fact, you couldn't find them. People were scalping these machines because they were so coveted during the craziest times of CV. They were almost ungettable. Harvest Right makes the best product, in my opinion, as far as the build quality and as far as the durability of their machines. These are big machines that come in different sizes, different amounts of trays as far as what you can do at one time. They're very easy to use, though. You don't have to be an expert to use them. It's basically cut and dry, no pun intended, but it is a very easy machine. Right now, they have their Easter sale. You can get $300 off with free shipping and a premier pump. Again, at marfuglenews.com/freeze. Again, that helps us out, and it gets you a huge discount. And, of course, you can also enter to win one. But, again, if you have a family of 5 and you're trying to get 3 months, 6 months, 9 months of food, this might actually save you a ton of money. Otherwise, it's also where you can do your own food and you can do whatever dietary restrictions you have. If you have food that you like, that's where this comes in. You may not be able to have that option for prepackaged food. Not only are you spending 4 times as much, you don't get to pick what goes into it. You don't get to pick the ingredients. You don't get to pick the restrictions. And if you do have dietary restrictions, by the way, if you say, "Oh, I can't have this in my food or this or that," then you're paying even more for specialized freeze-dried foods. So go over and check it out, Harvest Right, marfuglenews.com/freeze. Very easy to remember. Just our website with /freeze. And then Thailand, a gun on U.S. allies' warship misfired while the crew was clearing stuck shells and struck a frigate. Some are saying, cover up. What do you guys think? Dex, do you want to go over this one?
Sure. The Royal Navy, the Royal Thai Navy patrol ship, accidentally fired upon another Thai warship, injuring 14 people of its crew. And this happened on the 14th, and they're just now reporting the details of it. But apparently, they were trying to clear a jammed shell in a malfunction of one of its guns, and then it ended up firing. Which I don't know why it was pointed in the direction of another craft, but it was, and it ended up struck the rear of the frigate HTMS Kurharat and caused a fire on board. So it was kind of a big deal. Now, they were all docked when this happened. As a matter of fact, they were docked to fix this problem and other problems, I guess. But this was the one the crew was working on. Apparently, I think the captain has been relieved of duty or moved on, is what I had read somewhere else on this. But that's, they're looking into pursuing investigation, trying to figure out what all exactly happened. But these are the kind of accidents that do happen when you're dealing with these types of weaponry. So it's not a perfect thing. They train, they try to do their best, and you would hope that all of the time nothing ever goes wrong. But every now and then something does. Now, again, this was in Thailand. It's one of our allies. That's why they called it in the headline, U.S. ally warship misfires. Because it's very sensational, but at the end of the day, it's still interesting to look at and to think about. The more activity, the more ships we have out, the more activity we do working with others, the more drills you're doing where you're actually loading and firing, the more opportunities you have for accidents, and accidents do and will happen.
Now, I've heard, I saw a couple comments. Some thought, could this have been out on the water somewhere and they said it was docked? I don't know. Is there video of this at the docks when this happened? And by the way, this would be a crazy video to watch. If they've got it at dock, you would think that there would be surveillance video of one ship sitting there shooting the other. The reason why it matters is if this was actually out on the water and they say it was docked, could this have been an adversarial ship and they called each other and like, oh, we got to cover this up. This is, this was an act of war if it was done on purpose or on accident or whatever else. If it's one ship shooting another ship, that just looks dumb. So you would think if they do that, either it really happened or it does not look good for the Navy. I mean, the Thai Navy doesn't look good right now. That's pretty stupid. They knew they had it was jammed in there. It's a 76 millimeter shell in there. You'd think there would be basic knowledge that, that thing could fire, especially if you're trying to, what did they tap the back of it or something? Like, did they tap it back in? It was jammed. That means they had to try to get it out. How did they try to get it out? Did they hit it with the hammer? Pretty much, I'm a novice, and I know if you hit the back of a bullet hard enough, it's going to go boom. But what the heck really happened here? What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments down below. Speaking of which, thank you over on DLive, guys. Hey, thank you. I see you. Thank you. Lots of really, really awesome people hanging out over on DLive. Appreciate you guys. Thank you, Chance. Thank you for holding it down over there. Thank you, Skyhouse, Scooby-Doo Right, Zuby360, One B, and The End Is Near. Thank you, Kimbria. Appreciate your support over there. Over on Rumble and on X. Thank you guys for watching over on X. I saw the numbers are growing over there. Thank you. Thank you for tweeting this out. Thank you, or is it called to tweet anymore? Thank you for Xing this out. Posting this out. I don't know. Do they even have an independent thing other than tweet? But thank you for re-quoting it. Thank you. Appreciate you guys. And thank you, Uncle Iro, once again. Thank you, Sweatnam Ministries. Thank you, Addison Satterfell. I feel like I said it wrong last time, too. Thank you, Addison Satterfield says, imagine if a majority of people got Neuralink, then EMP. Yeah, that's a scary thought. Yeah, you wonder what happens to this guy when an EMP hits. I don't know, though. From what we've learned, I think the smaller the device, the less likely it is to be affected by it. Even some
That's
phones,
correct.
even some phones are actually safe. Isn't that right?
Yeah, that's correct. Modern phones that have small antennas don't have they have the least amount of properties to induct, and they have a lot of shielding. So a lot of people are worried about pacemakers. Pacemakers don't have that problem. They're small. They're already shielded anyway because they were worried about microwaves and stuff back in the older days with the older pacemakers. So, those types of small devices are pretty much going to be fine with a high altitude EMP.
Yeah, so hopefully the Neuralink people will be fine. And then Trilicit, thank you, says number one fan. Oh, that's a cute emoji. Thank you so much. Trilicit, thank you. And Jespy Bug and Sweatinum, thank you. And the JB administration announces climate rules to phase out gas cars and make sure majority of vehicles sold by 2032 are electric or hybrid. This is an odd time, too. If you haven't noticed, there is a ton of buzz and tons of videos out right now by huge, very influential creators basically pointing out the fact that EVs are not selling. There's a huge drop in EVs. And mainly they are attributing it to not only I'm sure the smack talk about Elon and every article saying that he's just super bad and they want him to fail real bad, is on top of all of the other costs that are associated with these electric vehicles. They were giving examples like take the Cybertruck, for example. That one windshield wiper that does the entire 8-foot frickin' windshield. How much does that cost if it needs to be replaced? How much are the tires to be replaced? How these EVs are super heavy vehicles. I guess they go through tires like 3 times as fast or 30% faster than a regular tire. So there's all these hidden costs that people don't know. You might not be getting gas, but you're also taking 6 hours extra on a 600-mile trip to charge up. And then charging ends up taking electricity, which in a lot of places ends up relying on gas or generation that's actually using natural gases anyways. So it's like you're just passing the buck off to somewhere else. So between all that, all of this is being said, the EVs are down, but yet in a few years, we're supposed to only have EVs. How does this work? The whole system has to change for the EVs to actually make sense, let alone everybody is struggling right now, yet, they're expecting everybody to get into EVs. And what's so crazy to me is right now, China is now posturing to be the king of the EVs, to have cheap and affordable EVs. Think about when they make it required that you can only buy an EV. But yet, this one is $50,000, this one's $7,000, and the money is getting tighter and tighter in the United States, and the diverse amount of folks that can actually have high-paying jobs is going way down. Not to mention, now you don't even have to have a GED to go anywhere here now, because they're basically they're making sure that everybody can participate in everything. And now you have these rules going into play. They're setting it up so China's gonna freaking own this. It's insane. Dex, I think it's crazy that they're setting up these rules, and right now EVs are at like a super low. EVs are not doing well right now.
Yeah, that's correct. You've explained it well. I think it's the same thing. That's what I was telling you. It's the only people that are going to be positioned to do anything is going to be China, because everybody else has backed down. They weren't successful. The costs were too high. The market didn't accept them, and they're all pulling back a little. So that's going to open the doors wide open for, China to swoop in here with a whole bunch of cheap economical cars, which the economy needs, because we can't afford these expensive Teslas and these expensive Fords that don't go very far. But we'll pay a lot less for something that doesn't go very far. We're just not going to pay, $100,000 for a vehicle that doesn't go very far. So, yeah.
I'll share. I don't know what this guy's name is. Let me share this with you real quick.
By the way, this has happened before. If you remember in the 70s when the gas crisis was here and we all drove around in big old V8s and big old heavy vehicles, and who came in with a cheap small engine? The Japanese. And everybody was like, well, I can afford that. It's a cheap car and gas prices are through the roof and it gets 35 miles to the gallon. Great deal. And they, took over the market.
And I found a really good video on this. I'll share this with you. It's this guy. You might see him. Actually, I think he does a great job, especially how he does his videos. Go tell him the Foogle fam said hi. Americans refuse to buy EVs. Why? His name is Cash Jordan. Seen a few of his videos. He does a really good job of putting it together. He also talks about how he did another great video on what do you call it? It was New York City, and how all of the stores are closing. Everybody's leaving. I could not believe it. He showed in New York City they have ice cream locked up. You can't get a freaking tub of ice cream without having somebody come out and grab it for you or unlock it. They've locked the freezers for ice cream. That's how bad the theft has gotten. But he did a great video on this. It was very easily explained. Did a great job. Cash Jordan. Worthwhile channel, to say the least. I think he does a really good job putting it together. And then Japan, a South Korean chemical tanker capsizes off Japan, taking the lives of 8 and leaving 2 missing. So, and on top of this, the same time, there's so many different things going on with chemical fires, and Ohio had this big incident, another incident where they think all sorts of people were exposed to all sorts of stuff. But they say a South Korean chemical tanker basically bit it and capsized off an island in southwestern Japan on Wednesday, authorities said, not only taking the lives of 8, one crew member ended up surviving, and the fate of the 2 others was unknown. This is literally like a movie, lone survivor situation. One person has made it out of this so far. Officials said that the tanker was carrying 980 tons of acrylic acid, a corrosive organic compound that's used in adhesives, paints, and polishes. No leak has been detected, and officials are studying what environmental protection measures may be needed in case there is a leak. The Japan Coast Guard said it received a distress call from the chemical tanker Kyung-sun, saying it was tilting while seeking refuge from the weather near Japan's Matsue Island, about 620 miles from Tokyo in southwestern Japan. And by the time they got there, it was completely capsized, and it showed the ship lying upside down with the rough sea washing it over its red underside. That's very eerie, considering the people that were on it were most likely in it or down below, or they may have just drowned. Very sad story. Hopefully it doesn't turn into an environmental disaster. All right, and and then before, again, I just want to remind you guys about Energy. Make sure to go check it out. And there is, Dex, do you want to tell them about a special note there too? They're going to be shipping.
Yes, let me find it.
So as far as
What does
the
it say? I don't remember the dates, but I put the dates in there because everybody keeps asking like how far it is. I want to say it's like less than 70 days out for the tactical.
yeah,
I don't
so
remember what I wrote.
one of the big things with energy, by bar none, one of the best solar generators out there. The big deal was that lithium. First of all, they have to acquire the lithium to make these. These are made in small batches. These are made at some of the highest quality standards out there. You definitely want to do that when you're getting a solar generator. You want it to work. This is the same company that's actually outfitting the Army. They just won the STTR Phase 2 contract. So, mind you, the competitors that do the same kind of thing, that expand, you can have one battery, take it with you, or have 10 batteries, or have 96 batteries, or add in a mod that completely changes how it works, add UPS, add supercharging, add all sorts of cool features, add in future add-ons. The competitors, if you look, and I had to, when I first was going to affiliate for any solar generator, I checked them all out. The main ones that can do the same things as this one does, go do your own research. What I found quickly was that the companies behind it were, almost all of them were directly tied to China. So again, here's the thing. These use all of the finest components. Everything's great. This is perfect. The one thing is you can't get this on Monday. You have to wait, and you might wait months. But yeah, the note is early tactical orders will begin shipping in late May 2024, about 70 days from now. So I waited 7 months for mine. And again, once you get it, you're going to be set, because these things are absolutely awesome. These are something that you want to last a very, very long time. And that's why you should go with Energy. You can get one on Monday. You go get it from another company. I just be warned, you may be getting it from a company that's tied somewhere. And heck, if SHTF happens, is it going to turn off on you? If it breaks, obviously, no matter what company you go through, you're not going to have a warranty to go ship it into somewhere if everything falls apart. You want it to work. And that's why, again, it's very important that this one ended up getting chosen by the military. They don't care if it's pretty. They don't care if it has bells and whistles and diamond-encrusted dingleberries on it. They care if it turns on, and turns on every time. Dex, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, one of the things they've always told us is that if you order, it's first come first serve. So like, get your order in earlier so you don't have to wait as long. That's why they say the early orders. That means if you order now, you'll be in that line for about that date. It's a rolling date, and it will continuously change, because it's every time they put in a batch and they double their batch of what they need, they still sell out because they're so popular. And that's what it even drives them crazy, because they can't. They don't like to run their business this way, but they keep doing it, and it's unfortunate because they keep buying even more than they think they need, and what happens is everyone just keeps buying them up.
Yeah, it's something that is controlled. Lithium is controlled by certain countries. That's the problem, and it's one of the biggest problems in the field. When you get into these kind of things, these are made by small companies. You wait to get the best. So it is unfortunate, but once you get it, you're set. And then U.S. experts wargamed what might happen if deepfakes disrupt the 2024 selection. Isn't that funny? This is what we've actually talked about many times, right? Using the deepfakes to screw with the selection process of our prez. Dex, do you want to go over this? This is exactly what we talked about, and now they're wargaming it.
Yeah, certainly. I think what they're really telling us here is how it's going to play out, and that's something, it's a touchy subject, so we're going to be a little careful with it. So I apologize to those of you, but as the selection process is coming up, they have sort of gamed, or war gamed as they call it, the system of what would happen if some of these deep fake disinfo type stuff happened, especially using AI, and they simulated in their their little game. What would happen if a message went out to everybody in one state telling them that there was events happening at the selection stations and you don't need to go because they're closing them. And then in another state, they changed it to a different type of topic with fake information about something that was happening there. I think what they're really trying to do is, and this is what, in my mind, is what may happen is, even if any of these things actually did happen, they're going to say it was because of this. And I even think that either side, any power could actually use this, whether it's an adversarial country trying to have influence, whether it is a particular party on either side could use tools and tactics like this. Any large conglomerate or large power wielding company or group of companies that say are the largest advertisers in America and produce all the stuff that we all need to live, that begin with a P and sounds like pho. If those companies like that could use systems like this to manipulate. And I don't know that necessarily the teams that are looking at this to try to solve the problem are even worried about actually solving it as much as they want to solve it for their own issue, not necessarily for the truth. And that's what's scary about this, is because everybody looks at it, they always look at it from just their perspective. It's like, it's fine if it's not hurting me. And if I see something wrong, I want to fix it if it's hurting me. But if it's helping me, leave it alone. So we'll see. This selection process this year is going to definitely be much different. We thought it was pretty crazy back when we had the last round we were all sitting in the house and home and having a different way of doing things. I thought that was probably the biggest change we'd ever seen in a long time, but I have a sneaking suspicion we may see some pretty squirrely stuff happen in the coming months as we get closer and closer to the big days in November.
And this is happening simultaneously as obviously you have rumors about, Sheriff Rick Jones saying that there's possibly going to be events in every state on a local level. I mean, look at how it's being set up here. Seems like we're in for one heck of a 2024. And Taiwan, we're rolled on the brink as Taiwan admits U.S. troops are now stationed not only on Taiwan, but on the Chinese border and on Kinmen County Island. This is a giant deal. There's no other... I could come up with 50 words that are just absolutely extreme on this. What else can we say? Again, I would highly recommend going over and watching our Marfoogle news video over on this. They are permanently going to place troops in Taiwan, and they are now admitting it's going to be a permanent station. What does this spell for the world? How is China going to react? We obviously saw part of the reaction. They could react in a silent way as well. So make sure to go and check out our video. We're going to put it right here. Make sure to go check out Marfoogle News. Click here if you're watching the replay. Thank you guys for coming tonight. Thank your mods for being absolutely amazing. Again, there's so much great stuff over at Marfoogle News. You can find it over on marfooglenews.com along with our full bibliography for today's episode. Make sure to go check out as well the friends list. And, of course, thank you, Schaefer Girl. I appreciate you so much. Love you guys. Thank you, Dex. Appreciate you.
Much love. Great job, brother.
Be safe, be prepared, and Marf out. It's now time for the shoutro. It's not an outro. It's not a shout-out. It's a shoutro. Drop them before they depop us, mamas and the papas. Drop them before they depop us, mamas and the papas. Drop them before they depop us, mamas and the papas. Drop them before they depop us, mamas and the papas. Drop them before they depop us, mamas and the papas. Drop them before they depop us, mama.